Hey there, my name is Pravus, and welcome to more Plague Inc. Evolved Cure Mode. A new disease type has been added into the game, the Frozen Virus. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this one's a bit tough. It does take a fair bit of luck and some skill. In fact, it took me a long time to even come up with a strategy that would work consistently on Brutal difficulty. We're gonna hope that this works well for Mega Brutal today. So don't be frustrated with this one. It is genuinely quite tough. The gist is fairly straightforward. It's a lot like your standard virus type, which means it's gonna be difficult to trace, and it does tend to be very, very contagious. This one always starts in a cold country, and in my experience, tends to be fairly lethal. And that lethality leads to a lot of panic and a loss of authority, which can cause you to lose the game very, very quickly. So your goal, of course, is to lock this down on one continent as quickly as possible. From there, you have one of two different strategies. You can either go for a very heavy contact tracing and, let's say, hygienic route. That can work. Or you can go very heavily on the quarantine route, and that's what I'm going to go for today. So to build up our task force, let's go for the fast response EMTs, because detecting it is extremely important early on. Technical officer to reduce the global infection rate is nice. Empathy trainer is good if you do plan on going for a contact tracing route. Medical coordinator is extremely helpful. Reduce authority loss from panic. I'd say this is necessary. Celebrity science is pretty solid. It does reduce non-compliance. I find that's helpful for quarantines in particular. And then for your last pick, you can either go with the airport controller, the land border controller, or the forensic epidemiologist. I actually don't recommend this because while vaccine research speed is great, this scenario, it's easy to lose track of the infectivity, so anything that helps you reduce the chance of spread, in my opinion, is going to be very good. Let's go ahead and get started on Mega Brutal, and I'm going to call this one Chill, bruh. Now, as far as the starting location, I did mention that this disease always starts in a cold country. That means it's very likely to start somewhere in Europe. There's a few countries in Europe where it's okay to spawn. Most of the time, it seems to spawn in places like Scandinavia or maybe Germany or even Great Britain. What you really do not want to have happen is for it to spawn in Russia. Russia makes things really hard to contain, so if that happens, I wouldn't blame you if you restart. Other top contenders could be Canada. Canada is actually your best case scenario. If you want to restart the game until you have a Canadian start, I really wouldn't blame you. It only has one land connection and only a couple ways out of the country, which makes it a lot easier to lock down. And believe it or not, Peru down over here is actually an option for a spawn as well. It's one of the only other cold countries that's not in the northern hemisphere. So if you can't find it in Europe or in Canada, it could be down here, but to be honest, by the time you found it, it's probably too late. Go ahead and restart. I'm going to start in a place like, let's start Sweden. Okay, we're going to go over here, not seeing it immediately. Okay, now we're going to pause. We're going to go to operations. I'm going to go for investigate outbreaks, government partnerships, and deploy field operatives so we can start to explore. These are your standard opening moves to detect the disease as quickly as possible. Now I'm going to move to, let's say, Germany down over here. Okay, still no seeing it. Then we're going to go over here to Great Britain. Okay, not seeing it. Let's get over to Canada. Deaths in South America. Did it actually start in Peru? Wow, it started in Peru and it's already got a few 100,000 people infected. Holy crud, I don't think I've actually ever seen it happen. I knew theoretically it could, but I've never seen it happen. All right, you know what I was saying about restart? Go ahead and restart. Wow, I did not actually expect to get that on camera. That's amazing. Let's go for that again. Pick that all up. Wait for our ability to go ahead and move. Let's get up to Sweden. Okay, we actually already found it. It's in Scandinavia. So I don't need to explore around Canada and stuff right now. We already know it's in this general region. This is a more standard start. So the next thing I'm going to do is first check, is Sweden the origin country? It is. That's actually not bad. It's only got one port and two border countries. I would say this is pretty optimal. You know one thing I would recommend for those of you who are trying to beat this? Go ahead and save. There's no shame in it. The reason I say to go ahead and save is this is a very difficult and frustrating scenario. If you happen to get lucky and discover the origin country early and you have an ability to lock it down, don't let that opportunity go by. If you want more of a challenge and you want to play this organically when you have some practice, that's completely fine. But I'm going to go for a save. Anyway, so we're in Sweden. The next thing I want to do is get some DNA and immediately try to go for some lockdowns in Europe. We need that right now. The reason we're doing that is we need to close down air access and try to prevent this from getting into other continents if at all possible. This is our top priority. However, here's a weird trick to the Frozen Virus. You can only lock down airports at the very beginning of the game. We will have the ability to lock down the rest of the continents later, but right now, that's the best we can do. I'm going to go ahead and pick up emergency care next. This is going to reduce the fatality rate wherever our field operatives are located. And then we're going to go ahead and start exploring the rest of Europe and look for more of the disease. The reason I'm doing this is because countries tend not to comply with lockdown orders, if you haven't even proven that the disease is in their country, like Russia. Now they're shutting down their airports. I mean, other countries are too, but like when we do a lockdown, like a actual continent-wide lockdown, they're not going to respect it. Okay, I don't like that the disease is already in Greenland. That's a bit scary, because Greenland has a tendency to rapidly lose a ridiculous amount of authority because a huge percentage of their population will die very, very quickly. For now, let's get into Sweden. We're going to try to shut this stuff down. We have not yet gotten the event that is going to allow us to start quarantining the continent. I'm going to hold on to a few DNA. It should pop up. There it is. Baffling of scientists. What this does is now under operations, we have the ability to analyze the DNA. So let's pick that up and then immediately go for a full lockdown of Europe to reduce that infection rate. Once I get a couple more DNA points, I'm also going to go ahead and pick up the infection control, because this is going to reduce the infection just like reducing a fatality. We're trying to get Sweden back under control before this gets too high. I'm going to keep an eye on Greenland, though, because this country seriously has the potential to go absolutely crazy. What we will do is a lockdown of North America fairly early on, and that is going to help quite a lot. Really, I'm not kidding when I say that authority loss in this scenario can be very, very sudden and unpleasant. You need to be watching for that. Let's go ahead and just get ready to lock down North America. Keep an eye on this. Sweden's starting to go down. It's mostly under control. All right, we need to get over to the USA, the Caribbean, and Mexico. Then we can go for a full lockdown over here. Europe, for the most part, is doing okay-ish. Russia's struggling, but it's not too bad. Let's go ahead and get down over here. I'm going to pick up the lockdown in North America to try and protect Greenland. And the other thing I'm going to do is pick up one level of contact tracing, so when we get into new countries, there's a good chance that we can kind of isolate them and prevent it from getting too crazy. The earlier you pick this on, or the earlier you pick it up, I should say, generally the more value you're going to get. Beyond that, we now need to start working toward adapting society and then mortgage and rent relief, because the non-compliance is definitely going to become a problem, and we need to be ready for that. Let's get into Greenland next, because you can see that it's starting to hit toward that critical mass, and that's extremely dangerous. But with the quarantine, plus our guys in position, we should be able to reduce this a lot and preserve a huge amount of authority. Seriously, I've had games where Greenland suddenly goes by with like 40,000 people infected, it's almost the entire nation, then suddenly your authority is dropping by 2 per day. I'm not kidding, it's awful. Keep an eye on Greenland. It's always Greenland, man. Let's go for Adapt Society, and then let's go for vaccine research next, so we can just get that ball a-rolling. The question is, do we go for accelerated research next, or for the mortgage and rent relief? Obviously, the faster you can get the vaccine running, generally the better. However, the UK is starting to give me some trouble. They're ramping up in non-compliance very quickly. That is a bit of a problem for me. I'm going to go ahead and pick up this next level, and that should drop this down by at least a bit. The UK is still giving me problems. Okay. Greenland is basically cured. So where to go next? Russia's fine. Korea tends to have trouble a lot. I'm looking for high outbreak locations. Russia might be the next big one. Then there's going to be the UK. We can go to the UK and try to get this somewhat under control. You can see it's now getting into places like China as well. Let's go for that accelerated research. After that, the question is, do you go for another lockdown of a continent like Asia, South America, Africa? Might be time to go for a place like Asia, because Korea does tend to ramp up very fast, which is a bit scary. The UK is under control. That's fine. How's Greenland? Okay. US, not too bad. Yeah, I think we're going to need to do a lockdown in Asia next, so let's go for that. Let's get over here to Korea and try to preempt this, because I'm telling you now, that is often a problem. Though we also need to get into places like New Guinea and New Zealand, because they're not going to respect my authority if I don't do that, so let's get up there. Looking for any other major outbreaks. For the most part, we've stayed on top of this. We're doing pretty well. The next thing I want to go for then is the DNA analysis level 2. This unlocks tier 2 initiatives, including a nice little thing down over here called border monitoring, which is going to help us prevent any transmission between countries. And that helps prevent more outbreaks, so we can control things a little bit better. Are we doing okay here in Korea? With the lockdown in effect, the answer is yes. Okay, looking elsewhere, where else do we have a big outbreak? The UK is still an issue. As always, the country that is going to benefit from your help the most is the one that starts giving you a lot of trouble. We do need to get level 4 national stimulus. I guess I'm going to go ahead and pick that up now, because I really can't afford for a place like the UK to just stop obeying my lockdown orders. We can't let this get out of control. All right, I'm going to continue looking around here. I know there's a lot of pausing in this scenario, but seriously, stay on top of it. Germany is going to be the next big problem, so let's let this burn down a couple more days, then get over into Germany and shut that down before it's an issue. All right, let's go for that DNA analysis. Down over here, border monitoring, as I said, is going to rapidly trace travelers from high-risk countries. That's what we want. But beyond that, it's now going to lead to airport screening and port screening, so we can try to prevent any more air and sea travel. That is excellent. We need to be getting those. Okay, Germany's looking okay. Korea, for the most part, we've been fine on. Greenland's okay. The U.S. is surprisingly holding out. Central America is probably going to have a big outbreak soon. Iran, not too bad. How are we doing in the Scandinavian region? Fine. Actually, we're really on top of this so far. We're playing well. I need to just not screw it up. So maybe that's your cue that you want to save the game, which I just did, and interestingly enough, it actually gets rid of all of the lockdowns. Huh, weird. Keep an eye on Greenland. I'm watching that starting to hit a critical mass, and that scares me just a smidge. Do we want to get up there? How are we doing in Germany? For the most part, fine. Yeah, let's get up into Greenland next. What do we want to do after that? I think we are going to save up for the airport screening, which we will grab now, just to reduce the number of planes that are sending the disease around and hopefully not impact too many more countries. Okay, keep Greenland under control, get that nice and low, no critical mass for you. Then I'm going to go for the port screening so we can stop having boats going all over the place, and that should make it easier. Hopefully we're going to see a lot of white vehicles traveling around from here on out. Greenland is still struggling, actually. Why, though? Why are you struggling so much? Wow, okay. More contact tracing would help with that. We could also go for the testing capacity, and I will. Beyond that, though, there's another thing I want to get, and it's called regional collaboration. This is a really unique and powerful ability for the Frozen virus. It allows our operative to support adjacent countries as well. Just one to start, then two with the next upgrade, and then eventually all of them, which is extremely powerful in countries that have lots of neighboring countries. For example, Central Europe, Russia, China. You can lock down half of a continent just by parking your field operative there, and that's really, really good. Greenland is struggling. For now, let's go over to a place like the US. We're not going to do have a lot of impact here right now. So we're just going to try to prevent this from getting out of control. We're now starting to have some people reject my authority over here. We could go for the targeted economic aid and then the debt relief. And the reason I'm picking up both is debt relief reduces the non-compliance so much, it tends to pay for itself. So let's go ahead and do that in both countries. Spend that, now we're down 80% non-compliance in both. These are probably going to be consistent problems for us, but it just kind of is what it is at the moment. All right. Oh, we also need to do one over there. Perfect. And Kazakhstan and probably Southeast Asia sometime soon. This is where things get frustrating because it starts to use up a lot of your points, and you really don't like that, but okay. Let's get over to Korea before this becomes too crazy. Actually, for the most part, it's not looking that bad. We may want to lift the quarantine in Asia. I think if we can get Korea down a little bit more, I'm going to, so we can just stop worrying about the non-compliance. I'm actually now, okay, you know what? I'm now actually worried about South America. Let's lift it in Asia, go to South America, get that figured out. We're mostly okay in Africa. That's fine. We don't have to worry about the non-compliance there anymore. Let's get down to Central America before this gets out of control, and then let's spend some points going for the regional collaboration and expanded jurisdiction. So now when we get to Central America, we're going to impact Mexico and Colombia at the same time, which is pretty darn awesome. We love that, so that's going to go down fast. I imagine Korea is going to ramp up very quickly in infectivity. This is the problem with lifting a quarantine. Only bad things tend to happen. We're going to need to get that lockdown back up there as soon as I have a few more DNA points, which will be very, very soon. There it is. Go for that lockdown. Prevent this from getting out of control. There we go. You can see the numbers going down a lot. Okay. How are we doing in Central America? Fine. How are we doing in Greenland? Building up. I'm going to go over here just to kind of purge this down a little bit. Seriously, Greenland kills me more than anything else. I'm not kidding. Anywhere else looking really, really bad? No, not right now. Korea's actually doing fine on its own. Central America's fine. We could try to boost up the U.S. a smidge. Or we could try going to a place like, let's say, Iran, and hopefully that prevents places like Iraq from getting out of control, so I don't have to lock down Africa. Or Poland's having a few issues. Tell you what, let's get to Central Europe for a minute, because I'm seeing some problems. just go ahead and burn that down a little bit. Yes, I know, we have debt issues here. That's fine, we'll be okay. What else we got? Let's go ahead and grab the global operations, and boom, now so many countries are being impacted by our field operatives. It's very, very powerful. We love this thing. We really, really do. All right, Poland's starting to go back down. Good. Iran is actually doing okay. How are we doing as far as South America? Do we need to keep this locked down? Actually, I don't think we do. I think South America's fine, so let's go ahead and lift that. What else? What else? I'm trying to make sure I don't lose this. Sorry, guys. I know there's a lot of pausing here. Let's go for the vaccine. We need to start boosting this up. I've spent a lot of time trying to prevent this from getting out of control, and for the most part, I think that's paying off. Europe is giving me the most issue. We have some issues here. Let's get to Iran, because I can foresee this becoming a problem. We'll pay off a couple more countries over there just to prevent this from being an issue. I need the compliance. Korea's sort of okay. Southeast Asia's kind of okay. Getting good progress there, and Iran. Okay, most of Asia's looking really good, actually. We might be able to lift that quarantine at some point soon. It's still partly going to be Europe. Let's get back to Central Europe here. With 10 more resources, what else do we want to work on? We can go for some contact tracing, or we can start reducing the infection rate straight up. Not a bad plan. Always save a few points if you can, because you never know when you need that debt relief. Going for the hand washing to reduce infection seems good. Then we can go for self-isolation. How are we doing in Greenland? Actually kind of fine. That's not too bad, but I'm keeping an eye on it. Yes, I know, Ukraine. You need some debt relief. Got it. Yup. That's fine. That's fine. Keep an eye on this. We're doing okay. Korea's still holding out. Very proud of Korea so far, actually. I think we might win this. Let's go ahead and pay off the Baltic states. This is why I'm saying to get the debt relief early all the way if you can. Otherwise, you only reduce their non-compliance by like 20%, and you have to just keep paying them again and again and again. It ends up costing a lot. Okay, so yeah, Poland and stuff's going to be a bit of an issue. Sweden, no, not too bad. Still fine there. Looking great in South America. North America is almost completely under control, actually. And we have a vaccine. Holy crap, we did it. Okay, we are going to lift quarantines. No longer necessary. Though we might have a few more deaths. And we're going to buy some authority. And that should get me a decent score. We jump back up to 100 authority, just like that. Wow. All right, vaccine is fully out, and we've won. Yep. That's what the scenario is, guys. It is a lot of bouncing around and babysitting, preventing one particular outbreak from ever getting too out of control. And for God's sake, don't let Greenland sneak up on you. Remember that the virus almost always starts in Europe. You want it to start in a place like Scandinavia or Poland, or even better yet, start in Canada. That's optimal for you. Otherwise, do not be afraid to make use of the lockdowns. They are necessary to work with your field operatives to prevent one country from becoming too much of a focal point. If you can do that and preempt where it's going to go, then you actually have a really good chance at winning. At the end of the day, we got 46,204 points, only 2 stars. I'm kind of surprised by that. I thought we would have gotten 3, but you know, I think we ultimately just took a little bit too long, and that's on me. I didn't go for the vaccine development as quickly as I could have. Woof, that was a tough one. Don't get discouraged, guys. You can do it. It just takes a lot of practice and a bit of luck. If you found this guide helpful, I would ask that you hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, make sure you hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.